Okay, this is a Brunsviga Model A. Actually, my second Brunsviga Model A. My other one was a little bit newer than this one, and it's also missing the lid. So you see, this one does have the lid. So the lid just unlocks. This is a key. The skeleton key unlocks the lid. You see, it just lifts this latch up here. Then folds back, be removed. And here is the calculator. And since I just purchased this, we're going to do a little quick disassembly of some of the covers, take the carriage off, oil everything up, and put it back together again, and see how it works. So, see, there's one screw missing there. These holes here I think are for the decimal pointers. My other one has different decimal pointers. It has the sliding kind. These ones I think are you just put a pin in where you want the decimal point to be. We can start by taking the covers off. By the way, this one is number 5172. My other one is number 8000 something. And my other one has the register clearing mechanism. And there's a knob on the side you turn and it clears the input sliders back up to the top. Where this one does not have that. Now, according to what I was reading, Brunsviga was at serial number 6000 in 1900. Since this is 5172, this should be from probably around 1899. Let's see some of the paint's been worn off the input slider numbers here. These three should all be red. And I'm guessing these should all be black. It's kind of hard to tell because it's black here, but looks coppery up here. So I'm not sure whether the whole thing was painted black and then the black's just rubbed off here, or whether the whole thing was copper plated and the copper was just turned black here and here. Now this was obviously painted black, so it's very possible that the whole thing was painted black. So, mechanism in here. The carriage should be able to be removed. See, it goes that far. The other one had a little tab on the side. Should we remove to slide the carriage out? This one doesn't have that. So I have to see how the carriage comes off. Actually, we can take the cover off the carriage first. Maybe that will help us see. I believe that Brunsviga was originally started as a factory in Germany by Oedner, and I guess he couldn't maintain the factory there, so he sold the factory to Grime and Taliesin Company, which was making sewing machines at the time, and they bought the factory and started making calculators there, which is what the factory was originally intended for. And they called them Brunsviga. So let's see. That's what was holding this in. One of the little carry things was popped out. Okay, so actually there's nothing that actually prevents the carriage from sliding right out. Unlike on my other machine. It's stiff. There we go. So here's our carriage. See our counterpart over here. I think there's some misfortune happened to that number 1 there. It looks like it's a bit gouged. Same thing with that one. Have to check that out. That's a bit stiff. are stiff, but they all move, so that's a good sign. Okay, this one won't clear unless you have this pin pushed in. It unlocks it for clearing. So that means you can only clear it when it's in the home position. So I think I'm going to get some alcohol and clean the track off here and the bottom of this. And we'll see if we can get the couch to slide a bit easier. And I'm going to squirt some oil down in the registers here and see if we can get those to move a little bit for you. Doesn't actually seem that bad. Probably can just squirt some oil in it. Oil it crank a little bit. That was too much. There's a little bit of rust here on the handle. That feels pretty smooth now. I think that's a bigger gap than there was in my other one. It's interesting. Okay, let's clean off this track. That's pretty dirty. Clean off the bottom of the carriage here too. That's pretty dirty as well. Now I'll put lots of oil on that track. And some oil on the bottom of the carriage as well. Then we should be able to slide this back in. It slides much better than before. Once we're in the home, we should be able to turn this. Yes, okay. Let's squirt some oil on these gears here. There's some oil down in between. So I'm probably not going to show this whole thing because it's going to take a while, but you get the idea. Those are pretty stiff too. That's quite right. See if I add 2, also adding 1 on the other wheel. Why is that? Because this pin is stuck, that's why. So these things here are the carries, as you can see. So how this works, and I described this in a previous video, but when this wheel wants to carry over to the next position, it pushes this little dog thing out here. If I can see it popped out right there. So that is going to push, well, you missed it, it did it before, but that pushes this pin, or rather this pin, over to drive the next gear here one position. But this pin gets stuck over, so even when it doesn't call for a carry, it still carries over. So let's put a little bit of oil on that. Work it back and forth a little bit. Alright, return it normally. That looks better. Put some oil on these carry flags here as well. Seem a little bit stiff. I also have to oil the pins on the pinwheel as well. I'm almost out of oil, but so I'll finish oiling up this register, and then we can move on to oiling the pinwheels. Okay, so all of this stuff should be, all the carriage should be oiled now. Let's move on to pinwheels. You can see these are all pretty stiff. Maybe that was too much oil. You should spring return so they go over and pop back. Some oil on these tracks here, because that's what, when the dogs pop out, these little lamps here are what push them back in, those little carry flags. And make sure you got oil on those, because that's a rubbing surface that pushes them back in. Too much oil again. The syringe kind of sticks, and when it lets go, a whole bunch of oil shoots out of it. And here's some more here too. Oil those as well. Have to oil these. there's two sets of these little pins because one is for subtraction and one is for addition, since you turn the drum the opposite way for subtraction. I was subtracting all the way across. That's why that was so hard. Okay. So, these are all pretty stiff. So what I'm going to do now is just put some oil right across the face of the pins here for each row and work them back and forth a little bit. See if that'll free those up. It's much better now. Oh, it's stuck. There it goes. Okay, so we've got those all freed up. If I put in all 9s, should get all 9s down here. And we're looking pretty good. If I put a 1 here and subtract, see that I carry all the way across, and if I add that back, see that it goes back to 0. So all the carrying seems to work for both addition and subtraction, so that's good. That's good. So you can put some numbers on the counter and make sure the counter clears, okay? And the counter is going. And shift it over. The counter is going. Stop. I can shift. Counter is going. Is going. See, the counter is just driven by a little pin that sticks off this gear here. See it there? Every time it goes on, it just hits that, knocks that gear one tooth. I should be able to clear it. can't clear that one unless it's in the home position. So I'll clear it anyway. Okay, so this machine seems to be running pretty smooth now. I think it's safe to put these covers back on. Now this cover doesn't look too bad. It's a little dirty. I have to see if I want to clean this up and repaint it or not. Because if you repaint it, you lose all the numbers there. But the paint looks to be pretty well worn off here, here, and here. So actually, no, I forgot. Before I do that, I want to clean off the oil I got on some of these numbers here. Let's see. Oops. I have to put a 1 here to do that. There's a 7 there, looks kind of sad. I think these are, they look like plastic wheels with plastic inset numbers. It's a bit dirty. Okay, so now put this back on. Alright, so I got the rest of the screws back in there, put the top cover back on, and then we can have a little fun. Okay, so this is all back together. So if I want to add, I simply put in my number, like 42, and I turn the handle this way onto my next number. And it adds. If I want to subtract, turn the handle the opposite way. It subtracts. To multiply, I enter my first number here, say 625, and then I want my counter, would it clear that, to read 625. So I want a 5 here, so I'll add 5 times. Shift over, add 2 times, now add 6 times. You can see 625 times 625 is 390,625. For the division, shift the carriage all the way out. Ooh, that's too far. Forgot it doesn't have a stop. My other one has a stop, so if you pull the carriage out, it has a stop that stops it there. This one doesn't have that. So you can just fling the carriage right off the end if you're not paying attention. Anyway, you pull the carriage to the last position. You can see the little arrow here pointing at what counter position you're in. Now enter our first number, 355. We'll add that. Clear the counter. Those counter positions messed up. Maybe they're just a little bit sticky. Alright, 355. And then our next number, we're going to divide by 113. And then we're going to subtract until we get an overflow. Now this machine doesn't have a bell. I'm not sure if it's supposed to. There is like some extra screw holes on the side here where my other one has a bell. But I don't see any sort of like finger or anything sticking out that would be used to hit the bell. So I'm not sure whether that's missing or whether it's broken or whether this never had a bell from the factory, or like it was just never installed. I'm not quite sure what the story is with that. But regardless, it does not have a bell. My other one does have a bell. But since this one doesn't have a bell, we're just going to have to watch and see if we get an overflow. And actually, it's interesting because I think my other machine has another position over here you can check for overflowing. But anyway, we want to subtract. So that would be an overflow. So I'll add one back, shift over one position, and repeat. That's overflow. I think the digits here are still a little bit stiff. They'll have to be worked a little bit. That's overflow. Add one back. Yeah, they're definitely still a little bit stiff. Have to be worked somewhat. And notice that on overflows, it only carries to one position off the end of our last digit here. That's because it only has those two little extra fingers off the end. It doesn't have any more of those little carry fingers going out, so it's only going to carry to one position off the end of this input register here. See, we're starting to get a little bit smoother as we go down. Probably because it was used more down at the lower end, so it didn't come up as much down there. Whereas the higher digits probably weren't used as much in whatever application this machine was used in. That's why they're a bit stickier. But I oiled everything, so it's going to take a little bit for the oil to soak in. Okay, and you can see our answer appears here in the counter register. And that is the correct answer. So this machine seems to be in pretty good shape as far as working. It will take a little bit for the oil to soak down into these counter digits here and loosen them up, but other than that, it seems to be okay. And it runs pretty smooth. Clears. So, I think that's going to be basically it for this. Machine works. Everything seems fine. Obviously cosmetic issues. The base is a little ratty. You can see that's coming off. So it might be coming apart a little bit there. There's some video missing here. And if you compare that to my other one, which lives up here, you can see the base on this one is actually in pretty good shape. This one wasn't painted, at least, or if it was, it would have stripped off. This one's a silver one. You can see the number there. This is the number on that one. So my other one was made sometime after, between 1910 or between 1900 and 1910. This one was made sometime before 1900. Based on the fact that they got to 6,000 in 1900, I'm going to assume 1899. So we can put the lid back on. I did tighten up the screws in the back here a little bit, because they were a bit loose. That'll drop in. Maybe. Should drop in. There we go. You can take the key out. You don't want someone to steal your high-end calculator. I'm pretty sure these were pretty expensive back in 1899. But anyway, there you have it for the Brunsviga Model A. Just a little cleaning and oiling and a look at an older one than my previous one. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.